Daniil Medvedev, the Russian tennis player currently sitting at #1 in the ATP rankings, could be banned from Wimbledon unless he denounces Russian President Vladimir Putin. That was the situation outlined during a meeting at the British Parliament this week, where the country's sports minister confirmed discussions were taking place to prevent supporters of Putin from entering the world's oldest tennis tournament amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine. According to The Telegraph, the English sports minister said, quote, "We need some potential assurance that they are not supporters of Vladimir Putin, and we are considering what requirements we may need to try and get some assurances along those lines." The move would affect Medvedev and any other Russian and Belarusian tennis players who are currently barred from playing under their national flags. I'm very uncomfortable with this.
Mike Barnicle, it's one thing if he has been out there after every tournament going power to Putin, power
wearing something,
a Z or something like that.
That's a no.
But to ask this guy to proactively do something that puts him in danger when he returns back to his country and his family.
Yeah.
Boy, that seems awfully reckless.
Seems sort of Russian.
And also let him play. You never know what's going to happen. We were all moved by the Russian player in the Dubai tournament who went over to the camera and wrote, "No war." In fact, we've had him on our show. He came on our show. He doesn't talk politics. Again, this is overkill. This is I'm hearing stations that aren't playing Tchaikovsky anymore. It's absolutely ludicrous. What are they going to do? Like ban Tolstoy books next? Look, Chekhov plays. It's ridiculous. It's overkill. Why don't we just start talking about freedom fries again?
You know, Joe, actually, it's inevitable that common sense also becomes a casualty of wars like this. And this is a war. That's the reality of it. We are at war. The United States is at war. Putin is a bad guy. Putin's not going to quit. And so this guy is a casualty of the lack of common sense that's been affected by what's happening in Ukraine. And to your point, he probably does have a fairly large family back in Russia. So the federation gets him, the tennis federation gets him to stand up and complain about Putin, say something about Putin. The papers have been filled with stories for just the past 2 days about Putin's increasingly repressive attitude and people losing freedoms that they took for granted, even in Moscow. So this is ridiculous, trying to get someone, a public player, an athlete, to stand up and renounce his own government, for political purposes, really.
Well, and again, Caddy, obviously, there have been, if you're talking about Roman Abramovich became a billionaire because he was politically in bed with Vladimir Putin. That's far different than a kid playing tennis, isn't it?
Yeah, and, we have to be careful about a certain amount of virtue signaling that's going on. As you said, of people cancelling Russian players, or there's a story about a Russian restaurant in New York that no one will go to, and guess what? It's owned by Ukrainians. It gets ridiculous, and it's harmful in some ways because it feeds into Putin's narrative. This is the West trying to cancel Russian society. That's the last thing we want to do. We need to confine this, as Fiona Hill says, to getting Russian troops out of Ukraine and make it very clear that it's not about anything more than that. This is not about the West taking on Russia. It's not about regime change. It's not about trying to destroy Russian society. And every time some Russian athlete like this is told to do something like they're doing at Wimbledon, or Stoli vodka has been taken off the shelves in Virginia liquor stores. It's actually a Latvian company. It's no longer a Russian company. This doesn't help, and it just helps Putin say you're all against me.
Right.
Yeah,
certainly, Joe, we've heard Putin use the word cancel repeatedly in his speeches, saying the West is trying to cancel Russia. And it's one thing if a Russian team is banned from competing in an event, World Cup or the Olympics or whatever it is, because they're competing on a Russian flag. These are individuals. And I think perhaps a helpful example here would be the NHL, hockey, which of course has a lot of Russian players, including Alexander Ovechkin, who is one of the most popular stars in the league. He plays here in Washington, won a Stanley Cup a couple years ago, and is seen as a friend of Putin's. He was asked after the invasion began about the situation, and he said, look, Putin is my president, Russia is my home, but I'm opposed to the war. And I don't want to see any war, and has largely been silent since, and the other Russian players in the NHL have followed his lead, and they're allowed to just compete and go about their game, be part of a team and go about their games without being forced to renounce their homeland, which is still, even if they have mixed feelings about the war or they oppose the war, is still home, and they all have a lot of family there still who could be put in danger.
Well, exactly. Medvedev was asked about it several weeks ago, and he said, I want peace. Beyond that, I'm not exactly sure what you want a young man to do or say when he has family back in Russia. I almost said the Soviet Union.
Really
it's turning
stupid.
back into the Soviet Union. So when you have somebody that says, I want peace, which in and of itself in this environment is actually an act of resistance and inflammatory in the mind of Vladimir Putin, I'm not sure what else you want. I hope they back down pretty quickly.
Well, now.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.